Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, unknown world. No maps, no roads, no compass, only the sky above, the ground beneath your feet, and the instinct to move forward. This is the story of the greatest journey ever taken, not by one person, not by one tribe, but by an entire species. It is the story of us, Homo sapiens, and how we walked, sailed, and climbed our way to every corner of this planet. 200,000 years ago, in the vast savannas of what is now East Africa, the first anatomically modern humans took their first breaths. The Rift Valley of Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania was not just our birthplace, it was our nursery, our school, and our launching pad. For tens of thousands of years, our ancestors lived in small bands, following the rains, the rivers, and the herds that kept them alive. But something was different about these humans, something that would change the world forever. They had language, they had fire, they had tools sharp enough to cut through bone, and minds curious enough to ask what lies beyond that horizon. Around 70,000 years ago, a dramatic shift occurred. Geneticists call it the Out of Africa event, and it would mark the beginning of the most extraordinary migration in the history of life on Earth. A small group of modern humans, perhaps just a few hundred individuals, crossed from the Horn of Africa into the Arabian Peninsula, stepping onto new land for the very first time. We know this because every single non-African human alive today carries genetic traces of that original crossing, a fingerprint left in our DNA by those brave, unknowing pioneers. But why did they leave? The answer lies in climate. A series of severe droughts and environmental pressures that pushed populations to the edge of survival, forcing them to seek new lands or perish. The Arabian Peninsula at that time was not the desert we know today. It was greener, wetter, dotted with lakes and rivers that invited exploration. Once they crossed, these early migrants did not stop. They kept moving, following coastlines, rivers, and valleys, generation after generation, slowly spreading across an unfamiliar world. The coastal route theory suggests that early humans hugged the southern coast of Asia, moving rapidly through modern-day India, Southeast Asia, and beyond. Evidence for this comes from ancient shell middens, prehistoric garbage dumps of shellfish found along coastlines from Africa to Australia, each one a silent record of a meal eaten thousands of years ago. By 65,000 years ago, humans had reached the Indian subcontinent, where they encountered a world teeming with megafauna, enormous creatures that had never seen a human hunter before. Armed with stone-tipped spears and a growing understanding of fire, these early Asians were formidable, and the animals they hunted had no fear of them, making them devastatingly easy to kill. Some scientists believe this is when the first great extinctions began, not from asteroid strikes or climate shifts, but from the arrival of a new kind of predator, us. By around 50,000 years ago, humans had pushed further east into Southeast Asia, where today dozens of island chains stretch across a glittering sea toward the continent of Australia. Here, they faced a challenge unlike any before: open ocean, stretching as far as the eye could see, with no guarantee of land on the other side. And yet they crossed. Using rafts or simple boats, these ancient mariners navigated miles of open water, becoming the first humans to settle Australia, a full 35,000 years before the pyramids of Egypt were built. The Aboriginal Australians of today are the direct descendants of those first sailors, their culture, their art, their dreamtime stories stretching back in an unbroken line to this first arrival. Meanwhile, another wave of migrants was pushing north and west into the cold, forbidding lands of Central Asia and Europe. Europe was already home to another species of humans, the Neanderthals, who had lived there for over 200,000 years, perfectly adapted to the cold climate of the Ice Age. When modern humans arrived in Europe around 45,000 years ago, they did not simply replace the Neanderthals, they coexisted with them, traded with them, and in some cases, interbred with them. The proof lies in our genes. Most people of non-African descent carry 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA, a biological echo of an ancient encounter between two kinds of humans. Within 10,000 years of modern humans arriving in Europe, the Neanderthals were gone. Whether through competition, disease, or climate change, their time had come to an end. But in their departure, they left something behind, genes that may have helped modern humans survive the cold, resist certain diseases, and adapt to new environments. The paintings in the caves of Lascaux and Altamira tell us that these early Europeans were not just survivors, they were artists, storytellers, and dreamers. Horses, bison, aurochs, and handprints cover the cave walls, painted with firelight with pigments ground from red ochre and manganese, a stunning testament to the human need to create, to communicate, to be remembered. While Europeans painted their caves, another group of humans was pushing north into the vast, frozen wilderness of Siberia, a land so cold that even modern explorers struggled to survive there. These were extraordinary people, clad in furs, building shelters from mammoth bones, and hunting the great woolly mammoths that thundered across the tundra in massive herds. Around 25,000 years ago, as the Ice Age locked more and more water into glaciers, sea levels dropped, and a vast land bridge appeared between Siberia and Alaska, connecting two worlds that had been separated for millions of years. This land bridge, which scientists call Beringia, was not a narrow strip of ice. It was a vast, wind-swept grassland hundreds of miles wide, home to woolly mammoths, horses, and giant ground sloths. The hunters who crossed Beringia did not know they were entering a new continent. To them, they were simply following the herds, as their ancestors had always done. But those footsteps carried them into the Americas, an enormous, empty land teeming with life, untouched by human hands. Within a few thousand years, these first Americans had spread from Alaska to the southern tip of South America, a distance of more than 10,000 miles, colonizing mountains, jungles, deserts, and coastlines. At Pedra Ferrada in Brazil, ancient rock paintings and fire pits suggest humans may have arrived in South America far earlier than previously thought, perhaps even before the Beringia crossing. Did humans reach the Americas by boat, hugging the Pacific coastline? The debate continues, but what is certain is that by 15,000 years ago, humans were living at the very southern tip of South America, at a place called Monteverde in Chile. The migration to the Americas completed a circle that had begun in Africa. Homo sapiens now lived on every continent except Antarctica, having spread across the entire planet in an astonishing 55,000 years. But what drove this relentless movement? Why did humans never stop, never settle permanently, always pushing further into the unknown? Part of the answer lies in population pressure. As groups grew larger, they needed more land, more food, more resources, pushing younger members to seek new territories. But there was something else, something deeper, written into the human soul itself, an insatiable curiosity, a hunger to see what lies beyond that mountain, beyond that next sea. Scientists have identified a variant of the DRD4 gene, sometimes called the wanderlust gene, that is more common in populations with a history of long-distance migration, suggesting that our urge to explore may literally be in our DNA. Climate played a powerful role as well. The cycles of the ice ages, alternately opening and closing corridors of grassland and forest, acted like a pump pushing human populations into new territories. The islands of the Polynesian Ocean were the last great frontier, scattered across an ocean that covers nearly a third of the Earth's surface. These islands seemed impossibly remote, and yet the Polynesian peoples, the greatest ocean navigators in human history, settled them all, from Hawaii to New Zealand, from Easter Island to Fiji, using only the stars, the waves, and the